The second thing which he sees is that the objects which he has experienced, they create some sort of a bondage or attachment, which is called as bandha. So he feels that he gets attached to certain objects and he is not able to, his mind is gripped with those objects and he is not able to leave the objects and experience happiness in his life. This is called as bandha. And the third one, which he sees, is that there is discontentment or non-fulfillment in whatever he has experienced. That means he has experienced education, he has experienced different types of happiness, he has experienced money, he has experienced wealth, but there is no contentment. No contentment is non-fulfillment. I mean, he feels that I'm not fulfilled in life. He has earned money, he has got married, he has got children, but still he is not fulfilled. There is some deep sense of non-fulfillment. Now with these three, this is called as pariksha lokan in an Upanishad called Mundaka Upanishad. The student has seen the deficiencies of the world, and then he goes to a teacher. And he goes to a teacher with fourfold qualifications. The first qualification is discrimination. He knows what is real and what is he knows there is something called as real and something called as unreal. Unreal seems to be the world of experiences, but he is searching for what is real then. The second qualification he has is dispassion. Dispassion towards the world of objects. And the third discipline is the control of mind, control of sense organs. These are all disciplines which gives him the ability to do the inquiry. The last one is the fourth D is the desire for freedom from sorrow and for attaining happiness. The desire to have, which is called as moksha. It's a freedom from identification. He feels that I keep on identifying with my body and mind and the world, and I'm not happy. So is there anything which I need to do or which I need to know, which will help me to attain fulfillment in life, happiness in life, real peace in life? So with these fourfold qualifications, a seeker approaches a teacher. Then we have seen all the different types of what are the definitions of dispassion, what are the definitions of the discipline like shama-dama, upariti, titiksha, shraddha, samadhanam. These are all just the descriptions of what I just said of the disciplines. And with these disciplines, he becomes fit to do the inquiry of trying to know, is there anything which is missing in his own self? Because identifying with his body and mind, he feels that there is a lot of sorrow in life. Then when he goes to the teacher first tells him, you need to discriminate, you need to inquire your individuality, which is what you have been experiencing so far, which is the ego, which is the ahankara. And then the second part of the inquiry is you analyze what is the world, what is the totality of this world. So in the first part of this inquiry into the individuality or the individual, the teacher gives a fantastic definition of what is the real true self, which is called as Atma in Sanskrit. And he defines Atma as something other than the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body. So this is the first portion of the definition of Atma. It is not the gross body, it is not the subtle body, it is not the causal body. Then he gives another definition and he says it is not the 5 sheets, the 5 coverings of Atma. It is not the covering, but it is what is covered. Then the third definition is, he says it is not the, it is the witness of the 3 states of consciousness. And then these are with reference to the experiences which he has. These are all with reference to the experienced world, which is called as anatma. The definition with reference to anatma, this is the descriptive, the indicative definition. In definition, there are 2 portions. One is called as descriptive, another is indicative. So with reference to what is known, the known body, the known waking state, the known dream state, with reference to known, the Guru tries to indicate what is the Atma. That is the first portion. The second portion of the description is the descriptive definition, which is called as Sat Chit Ananda, which is what we are going to see in detail today. Sat stands for existence, Chit stands for consciousness, and bliss stands for the self. Okay, so before we get into the Sat Chit Ananda, I just will quickly run through the other things which was covered, which is the gross body. What is a gross body? Gross body is something which is physical, which is made up of the gross 5 elements, and which the whole world can see, you can see, and the world can see. The public can see the gross body, I can see the gross body. And it is born out of food. It has 6 modifications. The gross body exists in the womb first, then it is born, it grows, it matures, and it decays, and then lastly it dies. These are the 6 modifications of the gross body. What is the subtle body? The subtle body consists of basically 17 or 19 parts. The first portion of the subtle body is the 5 sense organs called as jnana indriyas. The subtle body is an instrument. The gross body is a house. It's a gross body is like an office, and the subtle body is the instrument in the office. The subtle body is also made of 5 elements, which many of us do not know. We don't know what the mind is made up of. Shankaracharya here clearly says the mind is also made up of subtle body, is also made up of 5 elements, and these are the subtle body is created before the grossifications of the 5 elements, which I will explain later on. There is a process involved of grossification. When we come to the totality, I will explain the process of grossification. So here it's just enough to note that the subtle body consists of 17 or 19 parts. 17 parts consist of 5 sense organs of knowledge, 5 organs of action, 5 pranas, then antakaranam, which is called as the mind intellect. Sometimes people say 17, which means only mind and intellect is included. Sometimes people say there are 19 parts to the subtle body, and at that time they include the ego as well as the memory. So these are the parts of the subtle body. That means the power behind the sense organs, the power behind the organs of action, the power behind the prana, the breathing which goes on, and the same breath which becomes the 5 pranas in the body. That is the prana, dhyana, apana, samana, udana. All these are the expressions of one air which we breathe. The same air in different parts of the body has different functions, and each of those functions are given a name. Then, so that is the that is the subtle body. Then the causal body is what we experience in our sleep state. Once we know that that is, and that consists of basically impressions which are there in the mind. When the mind goes to sleep, it is that the same mind is called as causal body. So that is, so with this, the first portion definition of Atma is clear. Then Shankaracharya goes and talks about the 3 states of consciousness. The first state is the waking state, which we are all well aware of, in which the sense organs of action, sense organs of perception, mind, everything is active. In the dream state, the organs of perception are passive. They are not active. The mind is active. So the mind is throwing up all the impressions which it has gathered, and that is called as a dream state. Then this deep sleep state is the state when the mind rests. There is no activity of the mind, there is no activity of the jnana indriyas. What continues is the prana, the function of the prana continues. The mind is in passive condition, and the physiological functions in the body are going on. Breathing is going on, circulation is going on, digestion is going on, and so on. So that state in which I am not aware of the body, I am not aware of the world, that state is called as the sleep state. Then the 5 koshas. The 5 koshas are the 5 sheaths which are called as Anandamaya Kosha. Now this is the third descriptive definition. This is the third indicative definition of Atma, where the whole personality of a person is divided into 5 sheaths. The first sheath is the gross sheath, which is the Anandamaya Kosha, which is made up of food. The second is the Pranamaya Kosha, which is made up of the vital air sheath, which keeps the body alive, the physiological functions alive. The Manomaya Kosha, the third kosha or the third sheath or the covering, is the mind with the 5 sense organs of perception. Then Vijnanamaya Kosha consists of the intellect and the 5 sense organs of perception, which is called as Vijnanamaya Kosha. This is the intellect which is the doer of actions. The 5 sense organs are common to both the mind and the Vijnanamaya Kosha and the Manomaya Kosha. Then we come to Anandamaya Kosha, which is the bliss which this is the happiness or bliss which we experience in sleep state. It is also a covering. It is covering because it is again reflected consciousness which is appearing in, which is covering the real Atma. So this is called as Anand. It's a kosha where we have happiness. We have the experience of happiness. So Anandamaya Kosha is the one, it has got different grades of happiness also. this kosha is the nearest kosha to the Atma, and it has the reflection of Atma. Therefore, we feel the sense of happiness. Now, Shankaracharya says that all these three bodies, the five sheaths, and the three states of consciousness are anatma. They are not, they are all experienced objects. The experiencer is the subject, which is called as Atma. We have last week done up to this portion, verse 15. Today, in order to summarize this, I will explain to you this in a form of a Om chart, which gives the explanation of the same individual. This Om chart was developed by Swami Chinmayananda for his teaching, and this has been very, very widely used to understand who am I, what is my real nature. To a simple layman, this chart is a great asset, and let us try to understand what are the different things which we see in this chart. Om is the first one you see at the top. It is called as the Purushaha. Purushaha means the Atma. It is the real core personality, which is the spiritual personality in each one of us. It is indicated by the word Om. Om has got several meanings. One of the meanings of Om is supreme consciousness. It is it's a consciousness principle, and which is in each one of us. It cannot be seen by us. It can be known as I am that consciousness. All of us, if we close our eyes, we will know what this consciousness is. When we close our eyes, there will be two things which will be visible, which will be known to us. One, which is the mind, full of thoughts, and the second, the seer of the mind. This seer of the mind is Om. There is one Upanishad, which is called as Mandukya Upanishad, which describes this Om very elaborately, and it is this supreme consciousness which we are searching. We are trying, our quest in life is to search for this pure happiness, pure existence, and pure bliss, without any impurity in it. No impurity here stands for the body, mind, and the world. So that is about Om. We'll discuss a little bit more in depth when we study Satchit Ananda today. So this is the core spiritual personality. Below that is what is called as Prakriti. Prakriti means nature. Nature, or what is called as matter principle. Now, this one is unmanifest Vasanas. The first V stands for Vasanas. Vasanas are also called as Karana Shariram. It is the causal body. It is the Shakti. It is the power which throws out the waking state and the dream state. It projects. So this Vasana has an innate power in it, and it can give us the experience of the waking state and the dream state. Again, the waking state and dream state come back to the unmanifest condition. The next day, again, it goes out. Again, we project. Again, this is the sleep state. So this Vasana is basically the old impressions which are still there with the jiva, the individual soul. And it is also called as Prakriti or Maya. These are all different names given for this causal body. It's also called as Ajnanam or ignorance. Then this Vasana is responsible for projecting the body, mind, and intellect. This is the first thing which we must understand. That this entire complex, what we call as the, which we are experiencing, each jiva, each soul is experiencing the body, which is the gross body. Through the gross body, I perceive. P stands for perceiver, O stands for the objects. So through the gross body, when I identify, when I'm saying I identify, it means that reflected consciousness in the vasanas, which identifies with the gross body, becomes the perceiver of the gross objects in the universe. So this is the left-hand side of the chart. The next portion of the same vasanas or the reflected consciousness. So that one, when it identifies with the mind, it can identify with the gross body, it can identify with the subtle body called the mind. When it identifies with the mind, what happens is it becomes the experiencer of all emotions. It feels the emotions, and when it feels the emotions, it becomes the feeler. When I say that I am angry, or I'm happy, or I'm sad, these are all the properties of the mind. So when we are discussing the spirituality, the Om, the real core nature in us, these become the objects of the seer in us. The seer in us is called as the consciousness. The objects which are seen are called the body, mind, and intellect. So the same consciousness sees the gross body, it sees the mind. When it sees the mind, it becomes the feeler of the emotions. The same I, which is called as the vasanas here, reflected consciousness, when it identifies with the thoughts, emotions are different than thoughts. When it identifies with the thoughts, it becomes a thinker. So when you close your eyes and you start seeing, when you start seeing your thoughts, at that time you are a thinker. That means the consciousness is identifying with the thoughts, it is illuminating the thoughts, and it becomes the thinker. This perceiver, feeler, and thinker together is called as pramata. Pramata means it is a knower. It becomes the knower. It is the ego. It becomes the karta. Karta means doer, or bhokta. Bhokta means experience. Bhokta means enjoyer. So in short, this PFT stands for the ego in us together. Perceiver, feeler, and thinker. If you add all the three together, they become the ego in us, the ahamkara. This ahamkara is related to the objects, emotions, and thoughts. Objects in the external world are also anatma, not atma. Emotions are anatma. The thoughts are anatma. So thoughts are called, thoughts, objects, and emotions, they're called as prameyam. Prameyam means known. The known principle, then the instruments of the knowing are the body, mind, and intellect. So we have pramanam, pramata, and prameyam. These are three names which are used by the jiva or the soul to conduct the interactions in the world. These interactions are called as vyavahara. They are called as actions which are done with the help of the instruments, with the sense objects. And whenever the actions are going on, the end result of that is either happiness, which is called as sukham, or dukkham, which is sorrow. So this chart explains to us our entire field of experiences, which is called as Kshetram in the Gita, the 13th chapter. So it is a field of experiences, and in this field we are putting the body in the field, the mind in the field, and the intellect also as a part of the field. And of course, the whole universe, which it is seen, is included in the field. What is not included in the field is the knower. That means it is not the knowing principle, which is consciousness. The seer, ultimate seer in this world is only one, which is called as Om, which is called as consciousness. Pure consciousness is what is our goal, is what we are searching for. So if I am able to identify and tell myself, I am not the body, I am not the mind, these are just instruments of experiences which I see in my waking state. In my dream state, I don't see this instrument at all. I don't see this universe in my dream. And in my sleep state, I don't see the dream world, or neither do I see the waking world. So therefore, by reasoning, we can say that yes, these are objects of my experience, but they are not me. Like I would say that the car is an object, house is an object of experience, but it is not me. So similarly, I can say that the body and the mind and the thoughts are objects. Thoughts can be classified as subtle objects, very, very subtle in nature, but they are also objects of experience. And the only subject is I, the Supreme Consciousness. This is how I have to do the inquiry. This is how I have to do the analysis. And this analysis will help me to understand my spiritual personality. The more I look at these in my seat of meditation, initially it may be difficult, but when I keep sitting and contemplating on these, what happens gradually is I become slowly more and more aware of my mind, my thoughts, my emotions. I become aware that there is some principle in me which is aware of all this. This consciousness is, then I understand that this consciousness is the same. It's not changing. The awareing principle behind the mind is not changing. The physical body is changing. It was a baby, it was a child, it was a youth, it became middle age, it became old age, and then it is changing, all the time changing. In all this states of the physical body, I, the consciousness awareing principle, has not changed. So this is the first logic which we have to use in order to understand our core spiritual personality. There is a difference between matter and spirit. The spiritual personality in me is the seer. Matter is the seen personality. The body is changing. Then when we come to mind, mind is always changing. The thoughts I had in the morning is different than what thoughts I have right in the afternoon. And the thoughts I have in the night is totally different. The mind is made up of three gunas. It is made up of sattva, rajas, and tamas. I will explain this to you, the three natures of the mind, a little later. So basically, the mind is also changing. So the fact is, if the mind is changing, I cannot be this mind, because there is something in me which is not changing, which is what I'm searching for. So the body is changing, it's not me. The mind is changing, and the thoughts are rapidly changing every minute. So again, the thoughts are not me. So I come to a realization that these three things are objects of my awareness, and they cannot be me. So this realization of this seer and the discrimination between the seen and the seer is the first step in spiritual science. This is what is called as discrimination or viveka. So with this, I will then move on. I'm sure you may have some questions on this Om chart. I'll be happy to explain to them at the end of the class at about 7:15. We'll have a 15-minute Q&A. In case I'm not able to finish, you can send me a WhatsApp message directly, and I will be in touch with you on a one-to-one basis. If you have not understood, I can still explain to you so that you are clear between what is matter, which is body, mind, and intellect, which is the objects, emotions, and thoughts, and the ego principle, which is the ahamkara, I. At this stage, I would like to say that there are two I's in this body-mind complex. The one I is called as the ego I, which is called as the ahamkara. In Sanskrit, ego is called as ahamkara. It is this ego I which wakes up every morning, and it undergoes throughout the day actions, and it is this ego which is either having happiness or it has sadness. This is what today, without the knowledge of the spiritual core in me, I say I am so and so. When I say I am so and so, 99% of us will say, we'll all be referring to this ego. What the Vedanta or the scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads are teaching us is not this objective universe which we are experiencing, but it is taking us away from the objective universe to the subject, the core of our personality. Without, it can exist without this universe. It can exist without the body. It can exist without the mind. So that is what is our quest in this journey. Okay, then we move on to the next portion of the definition of Atma. This portion is called as the descriptive definition. It describes what is the nature. It tells us the first thing it teaches us. Now we are talking about that Om, that Atma, that spirit, that subject in me, the experiencer in me, which is experiencing the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body. The causal body is experienced as blankness in sleep. The subtle body is experienced as the dream body. It's only the consciousness is illumining only the thoughts in the mind. Now, the first thing which Shankaracharya tells us, the definition is called as Sat. Sat means pure existence. Pure existence. This word Sat is taken from the Upanishads. Upanishads are the core source of knowing our real personality. Bhagavad Gita has the essence of the Upanishads, but the Upanishads are the primary source, which is called as Shruti, whereas Bhagavad Gita is called as Smriti. It has got the essence, but it is written by human mind, whereas Upanishads are all directly coming from the higher reality. The source for the Upanishads, they say, is God. So the nature of this core personality is Sat. Now, what is Sat? And that which remains unchanged in 3 periods of time is defined as Sat. 3 periods, it was the same in the past, it is the same now, it is the same in future. The nature of this never changes. Everything in the universe, whether it be our body or any object of the universe, if we really analyze, we'll say the table is, the chair is, the body is, the mind is, the thought is. Everywhere, what is common is the objects are changing, but isness is not changing. This non-changing factor in all our experiences is the seer in us, is the consciousness or the existence principle. So this common principle, existence principle, is called as Sat. The next part of this definition of the Atma is called as pure consciousness or Chit. When we say Sat, it stands for pure existence. Pure existence means it is not mixed with objects. When it is mixed with objects, then it becomes diluted. What happens is, in my sleep state, I am pure Sat, pure Chit, pure Ananda, without any objects. That is my pure nature. Pure, and that is what is called as absolute. Waking and dream and sleep, these are relative states of consciousness. The absolute state, the changeless state, is called as the Sakshi state, or is called as a Turiyam state, or basically it is a state in which I don't have experience of any object. I, the subject, the spiritual side of me, am all alone. This is a very important discovery which each one of us has to make. In our core personality, I must be able to say, I am that pure Sat Chit Ananda. I should say this to myself. I am Sat Chit Ananda. I should learn to say this, because So far, we have been identifying with the body and saying, I'm the body, I'm getting old, I am so and so. So this change we have to make in our own self, in our own mind. And this change, once it gradually it starts and it builds up, at the end of our spiritual journey, what will happen is this: I am Sat Chit Ananda. What I am in my core personality becomes very strong. And then what happens is, I, who have been identifying with the sorrows of the body, with the sorrows in the mind, I drop that personality of mine and I am attached to the Atma, which is the real nature of mind. So thus one should know oneself to be the nature of existence, consciousness, bliss. The Om chart, which I had explained to you, is not in the book, which I have sent to you by email. I will send you the Om chart separately by email to you tomorrow, along with the video of this talk. And also by WhatsApp, you will get the Om chart. You can just keep it with you as an addition to the material for this study. The 5 principles of the self, I will enumerate them and then I will explain to them one by one. The first principle is, I am of the nature of eternal, all-pervading consciousness. So when I am saying that I am that awareness principle, where do I say it? Do I look at the object and say I am the awareness principle? No. I am, when I say I am the awareness principle, I'm referring to my body. I say I, the body. I look at my body, I look at myself. But then, is the body the awareness? No. Body is not the awareness. Body is perceived by the consciousness, which is the awareness principle. This awareness principle, I say it is in this body because I'm identified with the body. From the view of the awareness principle, it is not limited. It is all pervading. There is one consciousness which exists in the entire universe. Exactly like the light principle, the sunlight which comes from the sun, there's only one light principle which goes through the whole cosmos. So the first thing I should know about this consciousness, Sat Chit Ananda, is it is all pervading consciousness. The second is, I am the only source of permanent peace, security, and happiness. Permanent peace. Family, possession, body, mind, these are all sources of peace, security, and happiness, but not permanent. Because none of them is permanent by nature. Whereas I, the consciousness, am permanent. I don't change. I'm always the same, and I am the only source of, if I want to have ultimate peace in life, ultimate happiness in life, I have to learn to rest on this Atma. The third principle is, by my mere presence, I lend life to the material body, and through the material body, I experience the material universe. So what happens is, when I wake up in the morning, I, the pure consciousness, which was all alone at night, there was no world, no consciousness of the world or of the body. That consciousness, pure consciousness, is the one which is giving life to the mind. Life means it is the principle by which the mind works when it becomes active. The mind goes to passive and active conditions, but it is the life in the body. The body is physiologically alive, because of the prana, because of the oxygen which we breathe. But then behind this prana, pranasya pranaha, that means behind the prana, who gives the power to this prana to keep this body alive is this Atma. That is why we say the eye of the eye, the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind. What is behind the mind? What is behind the sense organs? What is behind the organs of action is this Atma. The fourth factor we should remember, these are all the 5 basic principles. So if this is clear, then what happens is this helps us in contemplating on my real nature. The fourth principle is I'm never affected by any event that takes place in the material body or the mind or the universe. So this is a fact which we have to assimilate in us. Normally, we get affected when the body is sick, we say, I am sick. When the mind is undergoing agitations, we say, I am agitated. And because of my identification, I say I am also affected. But with this knowledge of Atma, what it says is this Atma is asangaha. Asangaha means it is not connected with the body or the mind. In its presence, the body and mind works, but that is the relationship between Atma and Anatma. But Atma by nature can exist by itself. That is what our experience is in sleep. I, the pure consciousness, can exist without the body. You can say the body is alive, but then we are talking here about the identification. Identification, I can identify, I can disidentify. This is there, this facility is there, and the moment I come to know that I can exist independently, then this particular fourth point becomes very easy for us to accept. I'm not affected. Therefore, in any situations which we face in life, any situations, be physical or mental, if we have this knowledge that I am that pure Atma, that pure consciousness, which is not at all affected by the conditions of the equipments of the body or the mind, then I am ever at peace. The fifth principle of this Atma is, by forgetting my real nature, I convert life into a burden. That means the moment I get identified with the mind or the body, what has happened to me is I have fallen from my spiritual personality, from my own core personality of Atma, and I've started identifying with the body. So when we forget our nature, then what happens is all the problems of the body, I take it as my problems. And by remembering that I am the Atma, what do? I convert the life into a blessing. What I say, it is my body or the mind which is undergoing problems, but I am not that. I am that pure consciousness. Here, I stands for the pure consciousness. It is the witness of the 3 bodies. It is the witness of the 3 states of the mind. It is the witness of the 5 koshas. When I identify with the body, the same Atma is called as the ego I, ahamkara. Now, ego I and the sakshi, the consciousness, both are present all the time. In the space, in the time and space reality of waking world, I am called as the ego I. But when I don't have this attachment to the body or mind and I detach from this, I become the pure consciousness, which is a new realm of experience, and that is a totally different level. Therefore, that is called as higher level of consciousness or turiya. Anyway, these are 5 basic principles which we have to keep in mind whenever we are confused as to who we are. All the time when I'm confused, the confusion mainly comes because of the identifications, wrong notions and wrong identifications. Wrong notion, I am the body, I am the mind. The moment I drop these two notions in my mind, I am with my pure self, which is the Atma. Now, I have these notes which are taken from the notes of the 200 pages notes which I have circulated to you of the Tattvabodha. These notes are a part. I just thought I'll quickly go through these notes because this portion of Sat, Chit, Ananda, in the whole text of Tattvabodha, this verse of definition of Atma, the 9th verse, which gives the definition of Atma as is the most important, and this the nature of the self being important, I thought let me just run through these descriptions which I have put in the notes. So this one, what is the self? It is the nature of existence, consciousness, bliss. If I'm not the waker, dreamer, or the sleeper, or the 5 bodies, then what is the Atma? That is the question which the student will have. Atma is the nature of Sat, Chit, Ananda. Now these are 3 words together is one. They all 3 refer to one Atma. They are just 3 descriptions, but it refers to one object. So, the Chit consciousness, I'm taking the Chit consciousness first. Chit consciousness Chaitanyam is Jnanam. Jnanam means knowledge. Normally in the interactions, we have knowledge of something, knowledge of the world, knowledge of the body, knowledge of the mind. But here we are talking about pure knowledge. Pure knowledge means without any objects. That is why it is called as objectless awareness principle. And it is this consciousness which makes the body sentient. Sentient means what? Sentient means I can see, I can hear, I can touch, I can think. These are all the sentient principle. Sentient, it makes, what is insentient? Insentient means like a table or a chair. Table is called as insentient. It is just pure matter. Whereas body is a mixture of matter and the spirit. And the spirit is what which makes the body sentient. The seeing ability, the hearing ability, the thinking power. These are all the powers. It doesn't belong to the inert body. It belongs to the Atma. Atma lends this power to the sense organs, and then the sense organs become active. Atma lends the power to the mind, and the mind becomes active. So body, desk, these are all chemical bundles. They're all biochemistry. The bundle is alive and sentient, but what makes this sentiency is the consciousness. Consciousness is invisible, independent entity. You know, the principles which I discussed, the same principles are being discussed here in these notes. Consciousness is not visible. It is invisible. It is not visible to the sense organs. It is not visible to the mind. It is not visible to the intellect. It is an independent entity. It is like the electricity. Electricity makes the visible fan move. Now, fan moves, the movement in the fan, that power is given by electricity. That electricity I cannot see. I can see the fan moving. Similarly, I can see the body walking, talking, hearing, speaking, running. But the power behind that belongs to Atma, which is the pure consciousness, Sat, Chit, Ananda. In the Bhagavad Gita, for those who have done the Bhagavad Gita before, this particular verse says that the Lord dwells in the heart of all the beings. It causes by his elusive power to revolve as if mounted on a machine. Exactly like the electricity, Atma is there in each body, which is making the entire body sentient. I am talking now, my talking ability is because of the power of Atma. You are listening to me now because it is the power of Atma which is listening. So that is the invisible principle. The third principle we are talking about is the invisible independent consciousness is not limited by the boundaries of the body. It is circumscribed. It extends beyond the body also. So this is what I was explaining to you before. When I said that when I'm talking about awareness, the awareness principle, when I try to understand what it is not limited to the body. It is not limited by the, it is the same in all three periods of time, and it is infinite by nature. So electricity is not confined to the boundaries of the fan. It is dimensionless. Atma is locationless, dimensionless. It doesn't have length or width or height. Therefore, it is called as all-pervading, sarvagataha. In Sanskrit, all-pervading means sarvagataha. It continues to survive even after the body medium goes. How? You may ask me how. I don't see that Atma. What happens to Atma in sleep? Atma is not seen, but it exists. I don't say that I was not there. I always, when we get up from sleep, we say, yes, I was there. Of course, I was there. So that is the Atma which is always there, which is there before the birth of the body. It will be there after the death of the body. Birth and death belongs to the gross body. It does not belong to the mind itself. It doesn't belong to the causal body. Then why talk about Atma? Atma is far beyond all this. So there is no death for the Atma. Like we say, after the bulb tungsten has fused or the fan goes away, electricity still continues. We can't see the electricity because it is invisible. So similarly, there is a principle which doesn't die, which is not born also. What is born is the gross body. So the third lesson is consciousness is not limited by space. So spatially it is limitless. The fourth lesson is consciousness is not limited by time. This particular point of consciousness, Atma, is a very, very important factor. If I understand this portion of consciousness as not affected by time, exactly like what I experience in my sleep, when there's no time, I'm still there, but not in the form of a body, not in the form of a mind, but I exist in the form of Atma, without the body and the mind. In that, there is no element of time. This is something which each one of us can realize. If I can exist in my sleep without the body and mind, I can exist before the body came in, before I got attached to the body, I am still in the same form of my nature has not changed. My nature of body has changed, mind has changed, but not of Atma. This is a very famous verse of the Bhagavad Gita, which is verse 20 in chapter 2 of the Gita. I keep bringing in some Gita here because Bhagavad Gita is nothing else, but it is talking about the same Atma, which is being discussed in Tattvabodha and Atmabodha. It's a beautiful verse. It says, The Atma is not born, it is not dying. It doesn't die. It again ceases not to be. It is unborn, eternal, changeless, and it's ancient. He is not killed when the body is killed. It's a very, very important verse. If we understand this verse very clearly, and then we assimilate this in our own mind, I am that Atma, which is not born, which doesn't die. This gives us tremendous fulfillment in life. It gives us the fear of mortality goes away. The insecurity which I have, it goes away. So this is a very, very important point which we need to keep on remembering this again and again. Like I said, we have to learn to tell our own self that I am that pure Atma. I am that pure Atma. The moment we keep on remembering this spiritual part of us, our identification to the mind will drop so much so that one day we'll see our mind exactly like an apple in our hand. It can be objectified, and we will know I am the seer of the mind, I am not the mind. I am the seer of the body, I am not the body. So the fourth factor is consciousness. I, the consciousness, am eternal. The fifth point is the surviving consciousness cannot be contacted by us, recognized by us, not because it is not there, but because the medium of expression of the consciousness, which is the body, is not there. I may take another body in, again, I here stand for the mind, not the consciousness. The surviving consciousness is unrecognizable, not because it's absent, but the medium through which you recognize is not there. So this is the same example. When the fan and the light is gone, the electricity continues. So similarly, the Atma continues. We claim, we say, I am the consciousness which is temporarily possessing the body. Body will go, but I the Atma or the consciousness will survive. The physiological system may disappear, but I survive. During sleep, mind may dissolve, but I survive as Atma. My intellect may disappear. It may come in and go. I may stop thinking, but I, the Atma, am all the time there, illumining the mind, illumining the body, illumining the blank state in the sleep. In sleep, all of us have only one experience. I don't know anything. So that is a thought in the mind that is being illumined by Atma. So everything may go. I, as the pure consciousness, which is Jnana Sarupa, is always there. Here is some logical way in which I can think about Atma. I am is the subject, which is the experiencer. The body, mind, intellect, the clip, well, wall or car, anything else is an object of experience. So I am the experiencer, and what is experienced is the objects. I keep on negating the objects and say neti neti. Neti neti means I am not this, I am not this, I am not this. Where do I arrive? I arrive in the experiencer Atma. World will be negated because I'm experiencing the world. Because I'm experiencing the world, because I am not the world, because I'm experiencing the world, I can say I am not the world. So I am the witness. Witness consciousness principle, and I am not the physical body or the mind. Emotions are also objects of experience. Jealousy, anger, these are all different emotions which I have, but they are not me. The same thing is we can say about the intellect. And the same we can say about the blankness, which was explaining before. That is also not me. Sarva abhava sakshi means I am the witness of the abhava. Abhava means the absence of everything and the presence of bhava and abhava. I am the experiencer of the bhava. Bhava means when things are present in the waking state or in the dream state, I am that consciousness. When the things are absent, at that time also I am the consciousness. In both absent and presence, I am there. That I is my pure self. Then Sat. So far we have seen Chit, and Sat is this very similar to the to the consciousness. This I've explained to you. You can go through the notes yourself. Ananda. So the third portion, Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Ananda is the bliss portion. Now, this principle called as Atma is Purnaha. It is complete by itself. This is another. This is the definition of Anandaha, means Anantaha. Here, Ananda means not the bliss. There are two meanings for Ananda. One meaning is it is Anantaha. Anantaha means it is limitless. It is Purnaha. If I am identified with the Atma, I will say that I am complete. I don't lack anything in life. Because Atma by nature is complete. Because it is in this Atma the entire universe is coming and going. So once I know that this Atma is from where the entire creation starts, it exists and it goes away. That Atma is me. It is by nature it is Purnaha. Ahamkara, the ego, by nature is Apurnaha. Apurnaha means it is not complete. It always lacks something. So that is the definition of the Sat, Chit, and Ananda. If I know this, what will happen is I want nothing, I miss nothing, I lack nothing, because that is my nature. If I remain identified with not the body and not the mind, I'm already in the lap of Atma, which is the self. This, in short, is the nature of Atma, Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Our whole spiritual study, whether we are studying the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads, is to discover this three natures in my own personality. In this manner, I can say that my core personality is Satchidananda Atma. I have given this description so far. I will open up the. So today I will end the talk with this verse.
You want to see who Shekhar is?
Yeah, I will next
Some
week.
of the participants, you want to see who are taking part?
Sorry?
All old people alone.
Okay, next week I will be talking about the third portion, which is the inquiry into the totality. We'll start from the verse 17. For whatever I've discussed on Satchid Ananda, I hope you have gone through the video last week. And some people have come and told me it was very useful. What I plan to do is I will send you another video of about 40 minutes, which describes what we have discussed today, so that your idea on this Satchid Atma becomes more firmer. I will circulate that video on Monday along with the video of this particular verse. What I will do now is, so next week we are going to start verse number 17. And this is about the totality, That means we are talking about the nature of the world. Our main topic in Tattvabodha is the self, which is the individual me. And that portion is completed with this, with the topic number 2. Topic 3, 4, and 5, they are to do with the, topic 3 is to do with the world, with the totality, with the macrocosm. And then we will be seeing what is the, how do I see the oneness? That is a very beautiful topic, which is the, which is what we will receive as the gift of this study of this spiritual science, the oneness between me and the world. The moment I realize this oneness, that gives me tremendous amount of joy. That is called as the Aikyam part, which we'll discuss in the 4th chapter. And the last one is what happens to us when we have this knowledge. So with this, I will, for the next 10 minutes or so, I will open up for discussions. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Whatever we have discussed. As usual, I will be sending the video of this today, and then a new video of the teaching of the Chit Ananda portion. I will try to see if I can, if you have any more, if you if you have more questions, if you can't answer, then I will talk to you individually. But otherwise, please feel free to ask any questions you may have at this stage. And
why some blank? That means not taking part. The blank one not taking part. That means. Right. Because I take
the one
part.
almost the one on red, all participating.
I participating. Why the thing is not red?
Okay. Any questions? You can put in the notes also. I can read the notes.
I
have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Raja.
Yeah,
I want to know. You said Atma is a unique entity.
Yes.
Is the unique entity sort of existing by itself, or is it linked to all the Atmas?
There is only one Atma. There is only one Atma, and it is the same in you and me.
Okay.
It is the same. The moment I stop identifying with my body and mind, what happens is that it is just one Atma which we are talking about.
Okay, so it's all
and
linked.
that Atma is all pervading. It has not changed since creation of this universe.
I see.
Depends who's more realized.
I have a question. I have a lot of questions today.
No, it is a homogeneous line.
Yeah. But no, if you are more realized, the reflection is higher for the other.
Homogeneous is one.
Yeah, there's a question from Ramesh Velayudham. He says, does the thought control the emotions or vice versa? This is a question. Does the thought control the emotions? Emotions are also thoughts. Emotions are also thoughts. And intellect is in charge of the thoughts. Mind is in charge of the emotions. So when you say, do the thoughts control emotions? Indirectly, what you're asking is, does the intellect control the emotions? The answer is yes. If I'm identified with the intellect, I will be able to control my emotions. Whenever I learn, whenever I come to know that emotions are rising in me, the intellect will be able to control it. So your question is, can the intellect control? Yes, intellect can control the emotions. Ramesh also has one more question. The awareness principle is brought to us through the mind. Please advise, when I speak from third person, when I speak from third person, it sounds weird. My mind feels agitated against I'm agitated. Okay. One thing we must remember is awareness principle stands by itself. It can be witness of the mind when the mind is active. When so if my mind is disturbed, I will come to know that my mind is disturbed. It is the awareness principle which brings us this awareness of the mind's disturbance. So I'm not sure whether I'm able to answer your question. When I speak from the third person, sounds weird. I don't understand this.
Okay, what I mean is that is as the third person, I mean, when we say that we are supposed to be the observer of ourselves. So
we are observer of the body and the mind.
Right. So, and also we say that we are supposed to say I am not agitated, but my mind is agitated. So
Yes.
then we become the observer.
Correct.
So that's what I was trying to say, the first person and the third person.
Yes, you're right. When you identify with the consciousness as Atma, then the mind becomes third person. It becomes an object.
Okay.
So then this will stop your agitations completely.
Yeah, and that's what I meant. That's what I meant by it sounds weird when we speak in this way. Like, I feel agitated. I mean, we don't speak in this way, so this is something that we got to
correct.
bring
This
it
is
into
a
new way of thinking.
Yeah, this is a new way of thinking, because the moment I become, I see this. The thing is that we use the same I for the mind and we use the same I for Atma. I the Atma, I the mind. You know.
Yes.
So the moment because I'm using the same I, you feel there's some confusion.
That's correct.
But the moment you are able to identify your mind, 99% your agitations will stop.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That was the question. Then, is Atma equal to soul? Yes, Atma in general is called as a soul. The soul, there are two aspects of the soul. One, when it is identified with the consciousness, it is called as Atma. The same soul, when it is identified with the body and mind, the soul is a very common word, but the soul can be identified, the soul and the jiva, they are the same. The same soul learns to identify with Atma and becomes one with the Atma after the knowledge of the spiritual study. But the same soul in ignorance identifies with the body as I. This is where the entire bondage comes. This is called as this is where the bondage comes, and the freedom is when the same soul disidentifies with the body and mind and then identifies with the Atma as its real name.
Then what is the difference between Jivatma and Paramatma?
Okay. Jivatma, so far, what we have seen is the identification of the Atma in the body is called as Jivatma, with one body and one mind. That's one Atma. When it is identified with one body and one mind, it is called as Jivatma. The same Atma, the moment it identifies with the entire body of all the souls in the universe, and or the entire mind of all the minds, that is called as Paramatma. The Paramatma doesn't have ignorance. The difference between Jivatma and Paramatma is Paramatma doesn't feel that his identification in the body and mind is for giving the body and mind. It knows, the Paramatma knows that in my presence everything is going on. Whereas the Jivatma is identification with the body and soul, he doesn't know that he can exist separately from the body and mind. The moment the knowledge of Atma comes in, he becomes as good as a Paramatma. That is why we say there is a oneness between Jivatma and Paramatma after knowledge. After Atma Jnanam, the Jivatma becomes one with the Paramatma, it becomes one, and then once it becomes one with Paramatma, There is no distinguishing factor between a jiva and a Paramatma. The distinguishing factor is the equipment. If I drop the equipment, I am already one with Paramatma as in my sleep state. In the sleep state, there is no equipment, no identification of the equipment. So it is the equipment which makes the difference between Jivatma and Paramatma.
Thank you.
Then Jacqueline, okay, Atma, okay. What is the meaning of the word Vijnanam? Okay, Jnanam and Vijnanam. Jnanam means the knowledge of the objects. Knowledge of the objective world is what is generally called as Jnanam. The Vijnana means knowledge of the Atma. They say knowledge pertaining to the self is Vijnana. Knowledge pertaining to the objective world is called as the objective knowledge, and this Vijnanam is the subjective knowledge. So that, but that is what you wanted to know. Will my Atma be tarnished by my actions in this existence? Okay, good, very good question. Atma, we must know, is...
Sir, sorry, actually you can ignore that question, because I remember you said the soul is complete, so it cannot be tarnished.
Yes, correct.
Yes. So I've changed my question as to Atma and Karma are two different things.
Atma and Karma.
Yeah, they are two different things.
Yes, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Atma is different. Atma is the witness principle. Karma is the actor. Is the action which is done by the body and the mind.
But it attaches itself to the Atma.
Sorry.
It will attach itself to the Atma.
Yes, yes, yes. The moment the body and the mind attaches to Atma, then what happens is it becomes a doer.
Okay.
And when it is not identified with the body and mind, it is neither a doer or enjoyer of the world. So when the body is not a doer, or neither it is enjoyer, it is Atma.
Okay, so that's quite difficult to understand, but I'll wait to understand more as your lessons go on.
Yeah, see, what happens is these are all totally new knowledge which we are getting from the scriptures. So the mind is not ready sometimes to accept all what the scripture says. Sometimes it draws a blank. So when I read some of these things right in the beginning, I was very confused and I couldn't accept because my mind was very gross. So as we learn, as we hear more and more, what happens is, over a period of time, the mind slowly starts becoming purer and purer and purer, and my doubts will keep coming down and down and down.
Okay, so thank you so much.
Yeah, Murali is asking, is vasanas in the Om chart, is it next to consciousness, that is Om? It means the body is born with vasanas of last birth. Yes, you're right. Our body, mind and intellect is keeping on changing. It means vasanas keeps on changing in an exponential speed. Yes, you're right. Now the question is, who is changing the vasanas? Good question. Okay, vasanas are every day we are experiencing so many thoughts. The thoughts is a manifestation of our own vasanas. Each one has got different set of vasanas or impressions. Every minute we are experiencing different thoughts. Who is changing the vasanas? The answer to this is, all interactions are taking place in the earth with the light of the sun. The sun does not participate in any actions done, good or bad, on the earth. Sun is only giving us the light and the nourishment. And in the presence of Atma, all actions are going on. It is vasanas, they come into activity at a particular point of time when the environment is suitable to it. That is why it is called as prarabdha karma, which I will explain towards the end of this Tattvabodha. There is one portion of karma theory. It will be more clarified during that time. But right now, Murli, to your question, Atma does nothing. In its presence, all vasanas are coming and going. Exactly like the sun. Sun plays no role except that it just gives, in its presence, everything works. Will it not Atma as pure as it does not? Okay, that is right. Swapnil has asked, if I'm Satchidananda, then why have I forgotten my own self, which is reality? Okay, good question. This question is, if I am that Atma, today why have I forgotten it? Forgetting is beginningless. What Vedanta and the scripture says is, this has been there are a few things. For example, suppose I ask you, do you know Russian? Since when did you not know Russian? There is no answer. Do you know Chinese? I don't know Chinese. But since when you didn't know Chinese, the answer is a wrong question because it's beginningless. Ignorance is beginningless. But knowledge, ignorance can be put an end by knowledge. So what I have to do today is I have to bring in knowledge of the Atma, which will put an ignorance to my which will put an end to the ignorance of Atma. So the question is, this ignorance is beginningless, but it is not endless. It can come to an end. So with that, I will close for today, and we've gone through all the questions. If there is any other questions, we will. You can send me a separate WhatsApp message. I can come and talk to you separately on this. I will continue this topic next week with the third chapter. I will send you a video. Please have a look at the video. It's a good video which explains the Sat-Chit Ananda nature, but take it slowly. You watch it at your own pace. Maybe you watch half the video first and see the balance, depending on how much your intellect can absorb. Thank you very much for today, and we'll end with the prayers. And if you have any other suggestions, you can always send me a WhatsApp message. Otherwise, I will continue in the same pace as we have done today. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.